you've made me aware of the problems that afflict your sector, which I was not aware of. The shortages of plumbers, of builders, and painters. How bad is this shortage, Justin?
Yeah, no, the shortage is real of artisans. We call those artisans in the industry. In the sense that we have had technical colleges in the past that would actually develop these skills consistently. And the technical colleges have not been operating at capacity. There was actually a shift also in the mindsets of people to move more toward degrees.
Academic.
Exactly, academic people, hence the number of universities that we have. But when you look at the number of universities that we have and the number of students that we are actually releasing annually and keeping in relation to the practical kind of work, there's a huge gap. So what has then happened is the artisans that we have right now, the old ones trained with class 1, class 2, there are very few. Such that if the economy were to turn around today and we have a massive construction boom, and you say a site must have 5,000 people, and you've got 10 sites like that, we don't have the artisans.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's proceed.
Yeah, and we see it because we insist on using artisans with qualifications. And we are finding a lot of guys coming in and saying, Lord, I've worked in construction, but I don't have a certificate. But how do I know?
And yet we used to have a pool of those, Justin.
We were actually exporting, Trevor.
Yeah.
The region would actually get from us.
But we don't have this anymore.
We don't have this anymore. So in my view, there's real need to actually recapacitate that site. But can I tell you what? Right now, a builder, most of them actually are self-employed because they are well sought after. The same thing with electricians, the same thing with carpenters, the same thing with plumbers, the same thing with tilers. Why? Because they're in high demand.
So how do we resolve that talent deficit that we have?
I would say two things, Trevor. Let's recapacitate and relook at our training approaches. Let's encourage people to go back to the technical colleges and get proper training. Apprenticeships, correct. And let's probably look at possibilities of doing building brigades for those that are in the industry. Like, for example, we have actually made this kind of a proposal to saying, guys, we have 5 or 6 or 7 projects that we are working on right now. So can we be allowed on that particular site that we come up with a training program that is undertaken on that site with the necessary Ministry of Manpower Development and whatever, checking and setting the criteria and doing all the necessary inspections. And the people are then trained on the job, led by those that are experienced. I think we can do that for the young graduates that are coming out of university. My submission is don't waste the time holding on to your degree program. Get your hands dirty into something practical.
Get a skill.
And earn. Yeah, and make yourself demanded. We can do that with prison ministry. Prisoners, those in prisons, can actually save part of their time getting that kind of training so that by the time they get out of the prison, they actually have a skill, as opposed to them just getting released and not knowing where to start from. We can do that with any other person, those that don't do very well in school. Because our education system is like, if you don't have 5 O levels, you are done. But show me in the Bible where it says, without education, you are done. But without skill, you are done.
Yeah.
But the Bible consistently talks about
talent.
A skilled man shall serve before kings.
Wow. Are you getting traction in terms of proffering those ideas to the authorities?
Yes, Donald, our current minister of our ministry, of our industry, very, very positive, and he likes the idea, and we are working on that. I think very soon we should actually have that. Honorable Garwe.
Okay. Let's hope something comes out of that. It also brought my attention to the fact that we actually have a dire shortage of building materials. Your cement aggregates, your concrete mix. I mean, if you're not in the industry, you're not aware that we do have these problems that are holding back the completion of projects. Talk to me about that and the impact it is having on the industry.
A very great negative impact in the sense that it actually affects the delivery period of projects. And it's leading to stoppages, start, stop. And it's a problem. Like right now, cement is in short supply. We have projects right now where work is actually not taking place because the suppliers of premix concrete, they don't have the ability to supply. And I understand and I feel for them. You can't, it's a situation where you can't even say, I'm invoking penalties because you failed to deliver, because it's completely beyond their control. So we are building the Bridge Highway. A lot of cement is going in, a lot of concrete and three-quarter stones are going in, and that suffocates other arms of other lines of property development projects. And we can't afford that. Again, you go back to a point where if the economy were to open, Trevor, we don't have capacity. If you get into a hardware, you can actually have to go through 3 or 4 hardwares to look for a piece of item before you actually can find it. It's rare to actually go into one hardware and do a single purchase. And sometimes for literally $1,000.
You have to hunt around.
You have to hunt around. So if it's like in our case where our expenditure is very high, you can then imagine the kind of drama that we go through in putting our materials together.
So all this must be suffocating the development of the sector, and indeed all other related issues around jobs and that kind of issue, those kind of issues.
Yes, definitely, I would say yes.
Have you proffered any suggestion? Do you have any ideas in terms of how we could overcome these bottlenecks?
We have made some submissions, but I think core to me is because of the contribution of real estate to the GDP. I think it would be good to come up with certain incentives that could enable particularly manufacturing of certain core building materials that we are importing.
Okay.
And I think if certain economic zones were to really be established, that if you are based in maybe Rua or a certain industrial area and you are producing this X amount, you are exempt from this kind of tax, provided your output meets a certain minimum threshold,
Right.
for example, because we want capacity. And what we then have to import where we don't have a choice, maybe to also look and say, what can we do onto the duties payable on those kind of materials, so that the tax department, instead of collecting at the border, because it's going in, sales go through, there's VAT.
Yeah.
It's creating employment, there's payee. Businesses are doing well, there's income tax. So to kind of like see where you can best harvest in a manner that then allows business to thrive to the benefit of the nation. Yeah.